The Indian women's team have exited from the group stage of the Women's T20 World Cup. It's for the first time since 2016 that they won't be in the semi-finals. Let's look at a number of talking points in the campaign that went completely wrong with the loss to New Zealand. Over the years, we've seen the Indian team develop a strong sort of opening partnership focus. And whenever Smriti Mandhana and Shefali Verma have done well, they've kind of carried that momentum forward. In this World Cup, Shefali Verma was not entirely at her fluent self, but still managed to convert a couple of starts. But Smriti Mandhana was completely off color, except for that one innings against Sri Lanka where she made a half century. And that kind of led to the middle order being exposed a tad earlier than they would have liked, and it didn't quite add up in this campaign. Talking point number two, the confusion over the number three slot. A number of players had been tried in the lead up. There was Dayalan Hemalata, there was Jemimah, Rodrigues, Harmanpreet Kaur came in for the World Cup because none of them had actually grabbed that position. There was also Yastika Bhatia who got injured, which is why this experiment had to come in the first place. So in the lead up to the campaign, it was fairly clear that the coach said it was Harmanpreet who would be batting at 3. But one game after New Zealand and a loss later, it was Jemimah Rodrigues who walked in. And this roulette kind of continued all through the tournament. One game Harmanpreet, one game Jemimah. It didn't kind of send out a message that you were fairly clear of what your plans were. So that could have affected the dynamics a little bit. Number 3, role clarity of some of your middle order players. Sajana, for example, she was picked for the game against Pakistan only because of lower order firepower. India needed that in the game because they needed to also chase net run rates. Instead, she comes in further down later than Deepti Sharma, and her only ball in the tournament was a boundary. So if she was playing as a batter, was there possibly a case of promoting her up the order, especially after the team had gotten off to a slow start? India didn't score a single boundary in the power play in pursuit of 105. They got there with 7 balls to spare. Getting there a little more earlier could have done the net run rate a world of good. Number 4, the lower middle order hasn't really gotten a lot of match time. The likes of Pooja Vastrakar, Arundhati Reddy, Deepti Sharma herself. India did not play any cricket since the end of the Asia Cup in August. They almost had 1.5 to 2 months of just camps. So was there a case of sending a few of the players to Australia to play multi-format matches against a strong Australia A team to get that experience, exposure and batting time? It certainly showed in the final couple of games, especially in the game against Australia when the lower order just couldn't support Harmanpreet Kaur to get over the line in a tall chase of 150 plus. The final point, in almost every game, India found themselves behind on the over rate, and especially with one extra fielder having to be brought inside the ring, which meant only 3 out. The final overs were fairly costly, and you saw in that game against Australia that final over went for a lot of runs, and that in turn led to them having to chase maybe 10 runs more or 8 runs more than they would have liked. This was kind of a recurring theme. Even in that New Zealand game, it happened against Australia. It's happened far too many times. Just not bowling their overs in time, leading to possibly chasing a few extra runs, which eventually adds up in the end analysis. So it was a campaign to forget for India, but they will have to dust all that off and look forward to a big World Cup that's coming up at home next year.